was saying earlier, we're lucky to have some of the people that made the movie here tonight, so I'd like to first welcome Peter Bogdanovich.
Thank you.
And also Cybill Shepherd is here tonight. Okay. And also Timothy Bottoms is here tonight. And also Cloris Leachman is here tonight.
We haven't seen each other for a while. Not 40 years, but...
You got it.
Well, wanted to thank everybody again. Thank you all for coming here tonight. Really means a lot to everybody here, and it was really great to see it on the big screen. So thanks very much to you guys again. Really incredible.
I'd like to thank the audience. It was a terrific audience. It played like gangbusters. And I have to thank Grover Crisp at Sony. It's a beautiful print. It's the best print we ever had.
It's okay, Peter. Maybe I'll just go ahead and start with you, if that's all right.
Whatever you want, Luke.
Okay, I was just gonna ask you maybe how you kind of came around to the project and how you first got a hold of the book and what it was like for you to kind of collaborate with Larry McMurtry on the script.
Well, it was sort of fated that I would do this movie because I was in a drugstore and she wasn't in the same one. And I was going through the paperbacks and I saw a thing that said Last Picture Show, and I said, that sounds like a title of I should do. And I picked it up, and on the back it said, Teenage Kids Growing Up in Texas. I said, I don't care about that. And I put it down. About 2 weeks later, Sal Mineo, who was a dear friend of mine, came over and brought me the same book. And he said, listen, I always wanted to be in this, but I'm too old for it now. It's a good book. I think you'd like to read it and make a picture of it. And I thought, oh, gee, that's peculiar. And then 2 weeks later, an English producer gave me the same book. So I gave it to Polly Platt, my wife at the time, and I said, would you read this and tell me if it's any good?
And what? And tell me.
So she read it and she said, well, it's a good book. I don't know how you'd make it as a picture, but it's a good book. So finally I read it. And I was stumped about how to do it as a picture, but that's what excited me, trying to figure out how to do it. And then I realized the answer was simple, just do the book. Because the book is really very, very well written, very well constructed. It was just a question of leaving out things. But the basic flow of the story was there, and the dialogue. Larry McMurtry writes the best regional dialogue of anybody since Mark Twain, I think. And so you can't miss with his dialogue. And then it was just a question of getting the construction right and what to leave out and what to leave in. Larry was a bit bored with the process because he'd written the book, and he wasn't that interested. But we kept him going, and he was very helpful. He said in some essay he wrote, he kept me from flying off into romantic heights or something, which I have a tendency to do.
Right. I was reading that when you and Polly originally went to scout locations, that he had met you in Wichita Falls and then taken you to his hometown, Archer City, and that you and Polly.
No. What happened was he met us in Dallas. And he said, where do you want to go? And I said, well, let's look around. He said, well, you want to see Archer City? That's where I grew up. That's the town I wrote about. I said, no, let's go everywhere else first. So we drove all around Texas, and as you know, it's a big state. We ended up in Corpus Christi. I said, shit, we haven't found a good place. Let's fly back up. So we flew back up to Wichita Falls, drove to Archer City. As we're driving into Archer City, I said, wow, this is perfect. And Larry said, well, it ought to be. It's the town I wrote about. And that was really it. Except that we took 16 millimeter color film, and it didn't look as bleak in color as it did to the eye. And that was one of the reasons we ended up making it in black and white.
And just if it's okay to ask you about one scene, was going to ask you about that Sam the Lion scene at the tank where the light kind of changes where...
Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. I once asked John Ford about something in one of his pictures, and he said, oh, that was just an accident. Most of the good things in pictures happen by accident. I'd only made one picture at that time, and I thought, really? So I asked Orson Welles, who was a friend, and I said, Ford says, the best things in pictures happen by accident. Is that right, Orson? And he said, yes. Yes, you could almost say that a director is a man who presides over accidents. So the sun came, it was a completely cloudy sky, and we sat down to do the first take, and if somebody said to me, where would you like the sun to come out? That's where it came out. And it came out, and it went in, and went out, and it was a big area where we were standing, and Bob Surtees, the brilliant cameraman, was all the way over there, and I was over here. And I looked at Bob to ask him basically whether or not the exposure would be all right with the sun coming out. So I went, and he went. So that was a big help. So I remembered what Ford and Orson had said, so I said, well, this is absolutely a happy accident, so I let it go. And that was the first take, and that's the one we used.
Wow. And wasn't it Orson Welles who suggested black and white to you? Because that was obviously really unusual.
We were having breakfast in his house in Beverly Hills, and I said, I want to get the depth of field that you had in Citizen Kane and in Touch of Evil, that depth of field. He says, you'll never get it in color. I said, well, they have fast film now, maybe you'll never get it in color. Well, what am I going to do? Well, why don't you shoot it in black and white? It's an actor's movie anyway. It'll look better. You know what I always say about black and white? No, what, Orson? It's the actor's friend. Why do you say that? Because every performance looks better in black and white. Name me a great performance in color. I dare you. So I went to Bert Schneider, who was the producer, who really was the producer of the picture. And I said, I'd like to do it in black and white. He said, why? I said, well, I didn't say because Orson suggested it. I said, because we can get the period feeling very quickly with black and white, and I think it'll be better for the performances. He said, let me think about it. A week later, he said, okay. About a year later, I asked him why he had let it go so easily, and he said, I thought it'd be a novelty. He was a great producer, Bert Schneider.
If it's okay, I was going to move along to some of your co-workers and ask you all how you first came to be associated with the project and what it was like being on the set. Like Cybill, I believe it was your first movie, so that must have been interesting.
This was my first acting job. And yeah, really, pretty good, huh? I can't believe it. I can finally dissociate myself from this, seeing myself in the movie. Do you?
Oh, I notice things on my face and things.
Yeah.
I don't.
On my face. Wasn't this the most wonderful movie I've ever seen in my life? Oh, Peter, really? Oh, you darling. Every one of us, you know, we.
You're only as good as your actors.
I've said this before, but Ellen Burstyn and I we arrived in Dallas, and then we took together a little small plane to Wichita Falls. And then we worked with a dialogue coach a little bit, that man.
Gary Jason.
And we never talked English again. Our marriages were falling apart, and he was just awful sad about it. And we kept talking to each other the same way the whole time was there. It was real sad.
Well, it was paradise for me because I had my first acting teacher to be my first director, and we hit it off pretty good.
Pretty good.
And then, but Peter, you always said I didn't have to do the nude scenes. You remember that? You said, you don't have to do them.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to make the producers were very keen to have you do them, and I said, well, look, I want her in the picture, and if she's not gonna do them, it's more important to have her in the picture than to do the goddamn scene. Luckily, she did the scenes.
Well, I had good counsel because I asked you, Cloris and Eileen, and also Ellen, what would you do if you were me in this movie? Would you do the nude scenes? And you all said yes.
Well, we got in the bedroom, Peter and Timmy and I. And this one says, we didn't know what we were going to do. It was all kind of waiting for Peter to tell us. This one says, I ain't taking off my clothes for this scene. So Peter and I looked at each other, and we figured out, all of us, how to do that. As you know, we took our clothes off a little bit in the closets and then climbed into bed. And they had planted some a bra and panties for me and some stuff for him. And we said, action. He said, action. We're supposed to throw out the underwear. Well, I took off my underwear and threw it out, didn't I? You had to do it again.
Yeah, you did.
I just took it off and threw it away. I didn't think anything about it. And I heard that you said something, it's okay with me. But did you say, Peter, to Timmy, something about having a little something with me in the movie. And what did you say? I don't know. She was middle-aged. I think he was a little afraid of, no, Timmy, having this thing to do with an older woman. I was middle-aged at the time. Remember?
I thought you were very young at the time.
No, I was very middle-aged, and I still am.
Would all of you have read the novel as well before doing? Did you read the book before doing the movie? You just
Well,
focused on the script.
Years later.
Oh, I read it. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine, Jim Rogers, is here tonight, and I was a model, and everybody wanted me to be in movies and stuff, and I turned my nose up at them. And I had a stack of scripts and stuff, and so my friend Jim Rogers came over and said, have you had time to read any of these? And I said, no. He said, well, if you want, I'll take them, and I'll see if there's anything worth doing. And he came back with one, the last picture show. And he said, I think you should maybe look at this one. Thank you, Jim Rogers.
Yeah. So, Timothy, how did you happen to get associated with it, and you and your brother together? That always seemed interesting that you guys got to do it together. Seemed so perfect.
He had just done, was it Johnny Get Your Gun or Johnny Get His Gun? Johnny Get Your Gun.
I had a good agent, and I was introduced to Paulie and Peter, and we would sit and have lunch, and he would break toothpicks and eat his...
Trying not to smoke.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you'd have your tuna, and you had great dreams, and we were going to make this wonderful picture. And
What had you just done? Johnny Get His...
I had done a film called This Is Only Wednesday at a small studio in Santa Barbara, and then my second film was Johnny Got His Gun for Dalton Trumbo.
Which he really was very fond of doing, right? And our picture was kind of down from that one, wasn't it? We kept saying
Well,
that.
I don't know.
Yes, you do, Peter.
It's been 40 years, I forgot.
No, you haven't.
Eileen wants to say something.
Yeah. Eileen, thanks very much for coming. Those were incredible scenes, so I have to thank Eileen for coming out tonight. Thank you.
Luke.
Oh, Lou.
Luke.
Luke. Oh, Lou. Thank you.
Thank you very much. An incredible performance.
Oh, my goodness.
It's on, sweetie. It's on.
It's on. Hello. You know, first thing the last thing that I can remember, I'll say the first thing. What are you doing?
I'm helping.
Thank you. I don't know how I did this. I don't know how it happened. Somebody said to me, they gave me a watch and it said, EB loves AB loves EB. So somebody gave me that, and that's what started it. Well,
Was that you, Peter?
Well,
somebody, do you know of anything about that?
I gave you a watch, but it was later.
No, it was before I did anything.
Then it wasn't me.
Well, it was him.
Eileen, we did 4 or 5 pictures together. You might
What
have.
are you talking about? I haven't even done 4 or 5 pictures at all. Not for a long time. No, I'm not kidding. You know, you come to a time where the head takes over and you can't remember as well as you. I always had great people, crews. They would give me, they'd write out my words and they would hand them to me so that nobody knew what they were doing. And then I could say the words, but that's going to happen to everybody. It's going to happen to everybody.
Remember that line, getting old?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's ridiculous.
I was also going to ask, just Ben Johnson was so great in the movie, and I was just going to ask everybody. Just
Well,
ask him.
that's a funny story about Ben, because he turned it down 3 times.
Right.
I couldn't figure out who should play the part. I was having a hard time casting it. And we thought originally we had a thought maybe have a Jimmy Stewart. And then we thought, no, even if he agreed to do it, it would be a mistake to have a big star in this little town. And then Orson said, why don't you go down to Nashville and see if you can find a country western singer who maybe could play it. So I went to Nashville, and that's where I fell in love with the Hank Williams music, but I didn't find anybody. The closest that came to it was Tex Ritter, John Ritter's father. And, but it wasn't right. And then one day I was looking through the Academy Players character men, and there was Ben Jonson. Now I knew Ben Jonson because I'd been on the set with him in Cheyenne Autumn in 1963. And I said, Ben Jonson, of course, he's perfect. It has to be Ben Jonson. It was like, whoa, that's it. So I called him and got him the script and said, he turned it down. No, it's too many words, Pete. It's too many words. It's kind of a dirty picture, too. So I called John Ford, who had put Ben into pictures, and I said, Pappy, I got a really good part for old Ben, and he keeps saying there's too many words. Oh, Jesus, he always says that. I mean, when we were doing Yellow Ribbon, he'd come on the set and he'd go to the script girl and he'd say, any words for me today? And if she said yes, he'd sulk. And if she said no, you just got to ride a horse, he'd be happy. Where is old Ben? Well, he's in Tucson. Well, give me his number, I'll call him for you. Would you? Yeah, I'll call him. So about 15 minutes later, Ford calls me back. He said, he'll do it. Really? I said to him, Jesus Christ, Ben, I mean, Peter's got a good part for you. What do you want to do, play Duke's sidekick your whole life? Do the picture. So about 10 minutes later, the phone rings and my girl comes in. She says, it's Ben Jonson. I pick up the phone. Oh, Ben, you put the old man on me. I said, well, Ben, I really want you to do the picture. Oh, Pete, I don't know. There's just so many words and this. Anyway, he came into my office the following week, and it took me an hour. And I said, Ben, if you do this picture, you could win the Academy Award. Why the hell do you say a thing like that? I don't know. I just think you in this part could win the Oscar. Well, he argued with me for a while, and finally he had the script open in front of him. Slammed the script shut, and he said, oh, all right, I'll do the goddamn thing. And he only worked 10 days, but he was great. He was so authentic. The other funny moment was on the set when he had the line about, you catch the clap, you'll wish you never drunk nothing. And first take, he says, you catch the miseries, you'll wish you never drunk nothing. I said, miseries? He said, I ain't going to say that other word. My mother might want to see this picture. I said, Ben, miseries doesn't work for me. Clap is funny. So he said it.
At that tank, Peter, Ben grew up and was actually at that tank as a young man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lived really close to there, and he knew that country really well. So he identified with it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. He was actually at that tank as a young man.
Yeah, he seemed to fit in so perfectly.
He grew up just across the river.
Yeah, all the relationships in the movie, you and Ellen and you and Timothy and you and your brother and also Jeff, they all seem so close and authentic and not even cinematic. I just always wonder, gosh, was everybody living together in the same motel or was there a long...
We all lived together. We all lived together, all in cubicles.
We were all in Wichita Falls.
And we knew everything was going on in every room.
That's what actors do. Actors love each other. They love each other, and they're lucky if they get a thing that they can work with other people who love you, and it's so important.
That's so true.
It's so important. And I got a kiss.
I got to listen to everybody in this movie. Did you notice that Sonny listened to everybody? Did you notice? And I got to drive a lot of cars.
It's the hardest thing to do is listen, and you did it beautifully.
Thank you very much, Peter.
This is, again, I've seen this picture a few times, not a lot, but you're left just full of it. You can hardly stand it. It's so exquisite, perfect for perfect film, I think. but you never get any release. I feel like crying, but I can't. I mean, just ever. You never let me go after you get me all full of this picture. Now I'm going to go home and just... I started to laugh because I was thinking it.
You're so great in that last scene. You know, the producer, we had a meeting with the producer. They wanted to make the picture under 2 hours. So it was released under 2 hours, and I felt it was too short. I had a meeting with Bert, and Bert says, you know, why don't you end the picture when he drives out of town and then he turns around and drives back, and just end it there? I said, Bert, I made the picture because of the last scene. Oh, okay. That's true.
BB loves EB. That's what I got from him, the first thing. Now, I had black hair, didn't I? Look at it, see? This is waiting for you, unless... I'm not going to dye my hair. I promise.
This is better than the black. I like it better.
Do you?
I really do.
Oh,
Don't you? It's
good.
better.
Maybe you... do you do it? To you?
Oh, this is... What? Was what?
Your hair.
What about it?
Do you dye it?
Oh, of course I do everything to it.
I first saw Eileen Brennan off Broadway in a production of a play called Little Mary Sunshine.
Oh my God! Thank you. Oh my God.
And she was so brilliant. She lit up the stage. And when she was suggested for this picture, I said, Eileen Brennan, of course, she'd be wonderful. And I don't think you even read. I think you just came in and
You
I saw.
never told me that you saw Little Mary
Oh, I
Sunshine.
did so.
I think so too.
I did so.
You told me that.
Oh,
Maybe I told you.
I love that show, and you know what? He gave when he got older. He gave all the money that came from that show to everybody in the play. Every time he'd get some money for he'd just give it to all of us. I mean, he was such a that kind of a man. Thank you. He was really. I don't know where he is. I've tried to find him. I think maybe he's passed away. We'll get there, too.
And Peter,
Eileen and I did 4 pictures together, I think, altogether.
Peter, I was also going to ask you, it was so sad that Polly Platt had died away, had passed away recently, and just know that she was so important in the making of this and so many other great movies. And I think a lot of people outside of Hollywood don't know how great she was and instrumental in the making of some great movies.
A lot of movies, and she was great on this picture. The design is superb.
She did the production
She did the
design.
production design. She couldn't take credit as production designer because she wasn't in the union, so it just says design. But we got her in the union for the next picture, What's Up, Doc, and then
She was our cheerleader. She gave us lunches, and she told us what to wear, and she made us feel good, and we got to hold a baby, and she was like a mom. Come on, Peter.
Yeah,
She'd bring out a rack
she was
of
everything.
clothes
She
that
was
she
so
picked
wonderful.
out for everybody. A whole lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh, she did everything.
Yeah, but I remember coming out of the clinic, that scene where I come out of the clinic, and she glued my hair onto my cheek. I remember, glued it there. So remember a little kind of wispy thing.
She was wonderful.
She was, and
Yes.
she really blessed you two, because here they were finding each other at the beginning of the picture and all the way through it, and we all knew about it, and Polly was there with us and helping every single person,
She actually did my hair
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't give me my shoes, though,
Oh.
after the show was over.
Oh, she
I
was-
wanted that pair of shoes so bad.
Oh,
Oh, well, you can't have everything.
No, you can't.
And
I have nothing to say. All I can remember is somewhere in the middle of the 70s, Cybill and I were getting terrible press. And Cary Grant called me up. He says, Peter, Will you, for God's sake, stop telling people you're happy? And stop telling them you're in love. Why, Carrie? Because they're not happy and they're not in love. I said, I thought the whole world loves a lover. No, don't you believe it.
And Peter, I was just also going to ask you about having started before you'd even made your first movie. You were a film critic and a historian, and you'd become friends with all these legends like John Ford and Orson Welles, and then gone to work with Roger Corman, and how those guys kind of might have shaped you or helped you. They obviously had to have some influence, like you
Well, my
mentioned.
biggest influence for me when I was younger was Stella Adler, who was my acting teacher. I studied acting for 4 years with her and directed in the theater. And then while I was waiting to do another couple of plays in the theater, I started writing about movies and used it as a way of learning about movies, meeting John Ford and Orson Welles and Howard Hawks. And I mean, I owe them a great deal because they helped me a lot, just talking to me and giving me, you know, like Howard Hawks said to me, always cut on movement, then nobody will notice the cut. What a free piece of advice. I think about it on every picture. And Orson's thing about, Ford's thing about accidents, and just, I learned a lot from him. Orson taught me how to tip. He said, start out big and then reduce it. But I owe a lot to those people, and I love them dearly. It's a whole world that everybody was in their 60s or 70s when I met them, and of course they all passed away, and I miss that world. So I still write about it.
Well, it all comes across in a great movie, and I think everybody here is so thankful for the job you did and everybody else, and especially for coming out tonight and sitting up here. Really appreciate it.
Peter,
Thank you, Luke.
We appreciate you, Luke.
what was it called? Oh, Peter, what's McMurtry's movie? Is it Duane's Depressed?
Yeah, that's the novel.
Is that ever going to be done?
Jeff wants to do it.
Who?
Jeff Bridges wants to do it.
I do too.
Well, we have to talk to Larry and see if we
Well,
can get the money.
doesn't he want to do it?
Yeah, he likes the title. I think it's the worst title I've ever heard.
I like it very much. No, it's really good.
Dwayne's Depressed?
Duane's Depressed. We all know who Duane is.
You want to see Dwayne's Depressed?
You could say Jeff is depressed, but isn't she pretty? Oh, no, but you're wonderful.
Thanks very much, everybody. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
you
much.
coming out
Thank
tonight.
you.
Thanks to you guys.
She wanted to say hi. That'd be great. You remember your son was in the movie.
Thank you all so much. It was fabulous. We're going to try and get a group picture. Maybe should we all come around you, Eileen? I can take that away from you.